Jaya Jamunnathirvandachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamunnathirvandachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamunnathirvandachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Dāsa Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Dāsa Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Jaya Jaya Sratala Sri Śrīmad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6. Brahma satisfies Lord Shiva. Text number 40. Satupalam yagatam atmayogin.
Satupalam yagatam atmayogin.
Shurasharesha abhi vanditangri.
Shurasharesha abhi vanditangri.
Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam.
Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam.
Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu.
Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu.
Satupala vigatam atmayonim.
Satupala vigatam atmayonim.
Shurashareshe abhivanditam gri.
Shurashareshe abhivanditam gri.
Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam.
Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam.
Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu.
Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu.
Satupala vigatam atmayonim.
Satupala vigatam atmayonim.
Shurashareshe abhivanditam gri.
Shurashareshe abhivanditam gri.
Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam.
Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam.
Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu.
Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu. Satupala vigatam atmayonim. Sudasuresha abhivanditam gri. Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam. Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu. Satupala vigatam atmayonim. Satupala vigatam atmayonim. Surasura abhivanditam gri. Surasura abhivanditam gri. Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam. Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam. Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu. Arhatama kashayataiva Vishnu. Satupala vigatam atmayonim. Satupala vigatam atmayonim. Surasureshe abhivanditam gri. Surasureshe abhivanditam gri. Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam. Uttaya chakre sirasa bhivandanam. Arhatma kashayataiva Vishnu. Arhatma
Sa Lord Shiva, too, but Upalabhya, seeing, Agatam, had arrived, Atmayonim, Lord Brahma, Sura Asura Ishai, by the best of the demigods and demons, Abhivandita Angri, his feet are worshipped, Uttaya, standing up, Chakre, made, Sirasa, with his head, Abhivandanam, respectful, Arhatma, Vamanadev, Kasya, of Kashyapa, Ita Iva, just as, Vishnu. Translation. Lord Shiva's lotus feet were worshipped by both the demigods and demons. But still, in spite of his exalted position, as soon as he saw that Lord Brahma was there among all the other demigods, he immediately stood up and offered him respect by bowing down and touching his lotus feet, just as Vamanadev offered his respectful obeisances to Kashyapa Muni. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Kashyapa Muni was in the category of the living entities, but he had a transcendental son, Vamanadev, who was an incarnation of Vishnu. Thus, although Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he offered his respects to Kashyapa Muni. Similarly, when Lord Krishna was a child, he used to offer his respectful obeisances to his mother and father, Nanda and Yashoda. Also, at the Battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna touched the feet of Maharaj Yudhisthira because the king was his elder. It appears then that the personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva and other devotees, in spite of their being situated in exalted positions, instructed by practical example how to offer obeisances to their superiors. Lord Shiva offered his respectful obeisances to Brahma because Brahma was his father, just as Kashyapa Muni was the father of Vamanadev. So here we see the main point of this verse. We are seeing from Lord Shiva's example that even one is in a very exalted position, that in order to teach what is proper behaviour or proper knowledge, they demonstrate that themselves as if they are the student, as if they're in the subordinate position. So Srila Prabhupada would say that when a teacher does the ABC on the blackboard, or shows how to count from 1 to 10, the students shouldn't think, oh, the teacher is learning just like we are, So, but the only way that the children will learn is when the teacher does it themselves. One of the things comes to my mind is that when I do a little ceremony, especially for people who are the first time coming to the temple. One of the things amongst Srila Prabhupada's instructions that's always stood out in my mind is, he said, he was giving a lecture and he said, when people come to the temple, we should teach them to, and, I was sort of anticipating, teach them Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, teach them this, teach them that, so many. And he said, teach them to offer their obeisances. It's like one of the main things you can teach someone when they come to the temple is how to offer their obeisances. Always stuck out in my mind, It's such a simple thing, but it's really, from that point, you can understand a person's heart is receptive. So, so to get the children, little babies, they're 6 months old, a few months old, to get them to offer their obeisances, and I tell the parents, you'll have to do it too, and I'll also do it. So we'll all do it, and then the baby will see us doing it, and then the baby will do it. And so what happens is, sometimes I see that, I'll say, can the baby offer their pranams? Because they get that eternal benefit, of course. And the parents will go, oh, yes, but they don't do it. So I have to say, no, you have to do it, otherwise the baby will do what you're doing. So, and understand. So when we all do it, then, the little baby will do it. So it's like that. So Lord Shiva, but, one doesn't, the parents don't cease to be the parents, by showing their child how to touch their head to the floor, probably. And Lord Shiva doesn't cease to be very exalted, by offering his obeisances, although he's actually considered to be non-different from Lord Vishnu. So not in the category of jivas. So when Lord Vishnu has no contact with the material energy, he is known as Vishnu. And when Lord Vishnu is in contact with the material energy, he is known as Shiva. But he's not in the category of the jivas. By pious activities, any one of us here can become an Indra, a Brahma, but you can't become a Shiva, because you're on the platform of God. So he's actually a very, very superior, elevated personality. And the example is given that milk, when it's had a little agent, it becomes yogurt. So it's really it's still milk, but it's in a different form. It still remains it's milk, but now it's in a different form where it has different characteristics. So Lord Shiva is like that. Still Vishnu, but by the touch of the material energy, we get the Shiva manifestation. So, but in order to demonstrate something, then the teacher will act on the same platform as the students. Therefore, it's described that a Mahabhagavat devotee, an Uttama Adhikari, topmost level of devotee, in order to preach, they have to come down to the level of the Majjhima Adhikari. Because in order to practically demonstrate, to give the teachings and to also demonstrate, one has to behave in such a way. Therefore, we see that personalities, exalted personality like Srila Prabhupada, Nityasiddha, personality from the spiritual world, he preached Krishna consciousness, and especially in the beginning, when he was with the first, few followers, you see he was, lining up for prasada with the other devotees, lining up for the toilet, and just almost like one of the crew. Not, just going through all of the motions of a devotee, the daily routine of a devotee, just like any of the beginners were doing. So in order for them to see, oh, okay, we're just doing what Srila Prabhupada. That's one of the things I always loved about Srila Prabhupada. And it's one of the things that I personally try to incorporate in my preaching, is that whether teaching someone about deity worship at home or kirtan, I always try and do something that someone will think, oh, I can do that. So, always sing a simple tune, try and sing a simple tune, Hare Krishna, especially with newer people, and usually just Prabhupada's standard tune, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. As soon as you introduce a slight variation, you lose everyone. They can't follow. And I was really surprised one day because I was just doing a very simple bhajan with family in their home, and someone said to me, "Oh, can I get that on CD?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, they've got lots of nice CDs. No, I want like that." And it really surprised me that they were attracted that yes, because I can do that. We can do that at home with our friends and relatives. Srila Prabhupada always behaved in such a way, although sometimes, of course, because Prabhupada was a very exalted devotee, is a very exalted devotee, on the platform of the highest level of pure love of Godhead, sometimes he, despite his best efforts, he couldn't hide his transcendental ecstasy on the highest levels of spiritual consciousness. I'll describe a little bit of that here. Today is actually the disappearance or appearance day of Lochan Das Thakur. Disappearance. And which is very appropriate. Prabhupada, in the descriptions of Lochan Das Thakur, it is said that Lochan Das Thakur does not claim to be a doctor of philosophy. He was trained as a Vaishnava musician like his guru. That's for looking at you, this for looking at the book. He was trained as a Vaishnava musician like his guru. He composed such songs as Shri Shri Gaura Nityananda Daya. He based his Chaitanya Mangala on Murari Gupta's Sri Krishna Chaitanya Charita. It is written in simple, beautiful language, and it can be sung in various beautiful ragas. So today, the disappearance day of Lochan Das Thakur, and in one sense, one may not consider him to be a great scholar of Vaishnava philosophy. He never claimed to be anything more than a Vaishnava musician, but because of his humble position, he had the same transcendental realizations as the most elevated devotees, because he was a very elevated devotee. I'm going to look at one of his songs today, especially one that Srila Prabhupada commented on a lot, which was, what's that? I'm not sure the name of it. Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana. And but I'll read just a little bit about Lochan Das Thakur. Born in 1520 AD in West Bengal, Coromandala. He was a disciple of Sri Narahari Sakkara Thakur. One day in 1537 AD, following his guru's orders, he sat on a stone slab under a badari tree and started writing the Chaitanya Mangala on a piece of bark. So, it is mentioned that Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Lila that Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat was originally entitled Chaitanya Mangala, but when Srila Lochan Das Thakur later wrote another book named Chaitanya Mangala, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur changed the name of his own book, which is now therefore known as Chaitanya Bhagavat. And so on this topic, that always keeping oneself in a humble position, this discussion on this song by Srila Prabhupada is very much to the point of this purport. So this is given in there's a, first of all, I'm just going to read there's a very small talk that Srila Prabhupada gave, probably for a few minutes when he arrived in Mexico City. So, and he discusses this song. So Prabhupada says, "So I'm very glad to see you, and I am coming first of all to Mexico City." Devotee, yes. Prabhupada, so Mexico City, then Caracas, then devotee, Miami. Prabhupada, Miami. So I see your temple is the best. Devotees, Jai, Haribol. And Srila Prabhupada would do that every time he went to someone's temple. Oh, your temple is the best. Jai. Prabhupada, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very kind. Parama Kuruna, Pahu Duijana. Two lords, Nitai Gaura Chandra, Nityananda Prabhu, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are very kind, you see. They have appeared just to reclaim the fallen souls of this age. So they are more kind than Krishna. Krishna, he is also very kind. He comes to deliver, but Krishna demands that first of all surrender. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even does not demand surrender. He is so kind. Prabhupada's voice begins choking. So take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and be happy. Thank you very much. And then he actually can't speak anymore because he begins crying. So, one of those rare moments where Srila Prabhupada's transcendental, ecstatic love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where transcendental ecstatic symptoms of crying in ecstasy, because you may have somewhere in your life had that experience where, amongst all the troubles of our life, someone does something really kind and it just breaks your heart and you just start crying. You can't speak. Anyone ever had that? I know I have. Yeah. But so that is in there. Prabhupada speaks the essence of. So then, in this next lecture here. Well, actually, this is given. This is given later. So that was his arrival address, but later, Srila Prabhupada gives a full discussion on this purport to Parama Karuna, written by Lord Chandas Thakur. Pahu Duijana. Pahu means Prabhu. The shortcut is Pahu. Prabhu, Lord or Master. So these two Prabhus, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressed as Mahaprabhu, Mahapurush, and others, they are addressed as Prabhu. So these two Prabhus, Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are very merciful. Param Karuna. Parama Karuna means extremely merciful. Extremely merciful because Krishna is also merciful. But because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original feature, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also Krishna, but he is acting as devotee. He is not acting as Krishna. He is acting as devotee of Krishna. Namo Mahavranya Krishna Pramapadayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne. So here's another example, as with Lord Shiva, that in order, Krishna gave some instructions, as Srila Prabhupada will mention, the people couldn't follow. So out of even greater kindness, he came personally himself to demonstrate as a devotee. So people misunderstand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not God or somehow is inferior. But actually he's the same Krishna, but he's just being more kind. So he is Krishna, but but at present he has assumed the name of Krishna Chaitanya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also appreciated Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He made 100 verses about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to teach us, he destroyed the slokas. Oh, it is too much praising me. So he's teaching us humility. So anyway, some of the slokas were saved. 2 of them are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one of the slokas, a verse, is Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yogam Shishatam Ika Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripam Buddhi Yastam Maham Prapadye. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is offering his obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, speaking like this, that you are the same original person, Krishna, but you have now assumed the form of Krishna Chaitanya just to teach Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yogam. You have come to teach the mass of people the art of becoming detached to this material world. Vairagya Vidya. Ragya means attachment and viraga means detachment. So we fallen souls, conditioned souls, and you see Srila Prabhupada counted himself amongst us fallen souls, although he's not. We are very much attached to this material world again, Prabhupada. We are. And consequently, we are very much attached to the material body and consequently the material world. This is the disease. This is called bhavaroga, or material disease, to become attached to this body. I am Indian, I am American, I am white, I am black. I identify with this body because we are very much attached to this body. But if we study very deeply, why am I attached to this body? Suppose if there is some danger, immediately warning, just this roof is going to fall down. We should immediately take care of our own body, not of our God brothers. Because we are very much attached to this body. This is the first business, how to save this body. Now the next question is, why are you so much anxious to save this body? What will be the answer? Can anyone say? Why one is so much attached with this body? The answer is that because I, the real I am within this body, therefore I am anxious to save it. Then why are you anxious to save the soul, the individual soul? The answer will be that because I am part and parcel of Krishna. So ultimately, we want to love Krishna. But because we are trying to, in a forgetful platform, then someone is trying to save his body. Someone is trying to save his bodily relationship. Therefore, in so many ways, we're implicated with this material atmosphere. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us how to become detached to this material world. That is Vairagya Vidya. Vidya means Vairagya Vidya. Vidya does not mean to become more attached to this material world. So Vidya, of course, meaning knowledge. That is avidya, illusion. Because I will not be able to save this body. This body will change. I will be annihilated. But still, I'm very much anxious for this body. This is called illusion or ignorance or avidya. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us Vairagya Vidya, how to become detached. He personally showed by his life example. So as Prabhupada's pointing out there, he didn't give just a couple of the lessons and a couple of the demonstrations. He gave his entire life to show fully this point of Vairagya. And now Srila Prabhupada, in order to show how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did this, he describes the exalted position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How amazing it was that someone so well situated would give all of that up. His name was Nimai Pandit, and he was very influential also. He was so influential that simply by his calling, 100,000 people joined him to show a civil disobedience movement, disobeying the order of the magistrate that you cannot perform kirtan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu organised immediately about 1 lakh of people and went to perform at the house of the magistrate. The civil disobedience movement, perhaps you know that it was inaugurated by Mahatma Gandhi in India against the British government, but long before, 500 years before, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started this civil disobedience movement against the order of Kazi. So he was popular. My point is that not only was he a very learned scholar, he was also influential. So of course, there are not many, even amongst very famous people, even people in Hollywood, politicians, to do what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did there is very unique. He was a young man, 22 years, but he was so popular that he could call 100,000 people at once to start this civil disobedience, the social position. Sometimes we see that people are very popular for a few years. They get, 100,000 followers, and then they have the same 100,000 people become their enemies. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's 100,000 followers just increased to hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and they remained faithful his whole life. That you do not see. He was beautiful. So he's described, he was a Pandit, he was influential, he was beautiful. Gaurasundra, his another name is Gaurasundra, very beautiful body. And a very learned scholar, Nimai Pandit. Nobody could defeat him, and very influential and born of a very high-grade Brahmana family. His father, his grandfather was very learned scholars. So in every way, he was very well situated. Although the Brahmanas are not very rich, they do not care for money. They're interested in knowledge, Brahmagyana. And if one knows Brahman, then he is Brahmana. Brahma janatiti brahmanaha. Brahmana means one who knows the absolute truth, that is Brahma Jnana. So Srila Prabhupada, he'll come back to this point. So I just want to make sure I don't lose anyone here. But then he's describing how, what he has given up, Vairagya. And But while he's on this point of that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Brahmana, he's going to revisit this point of vidya. What is knowledge? So the human life is meant for that purpose. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Everyone should be interested to inquire about Brahman, the absolute truth. At least a class of man must be there in the society that is the brain of the society, Brahmana. Just like you have got the brain in your body, if the brain is absent, if the brain has gone mad, then your whole body is useless. This is the position at the present moment. Srila Prabhupada describes, mental disease is the worst of illnesses, because then your whole body becomes useless, even if it's strong. There is no brain in society, all Sudras, no Brahmanas, because nobody is interested with the absolute truth. Everyone is interested in how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex, and how to defend. That is going on, nationwide, worldwide. Therefore, our Krishna consciousness movement is interested to make a section of the people, Brahmana, brain, that can guide. It is not that everyone requires, neither is it possible. Unless one is very intelligent, he cannot become Brahmana. Brahmana means the most intellectual class of the society, that is Brahmana. So this is an important point that Srila Prabhupada points out, that this movement, one of its primary purposes is to create at least a class of most intelligent persons, men and women, who can guide the world. But he understands that that's a small percentage of the population. Not everyone can actually be trained as a Brahmana. But later, but that doesn't mean that Krishna consciousness is an exclusive club for a certain type of people. And this is the whole point of this, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this disappearance of Lochana Das Thakur, and we see here that even if in any position one may be situated, they can develop their love for God. Brahmanas, can show the way that, come and take shelter of the personality of Godhead. So that, this is where your interest is. And if anyone does that, then those personalities, they become as good as Brahmanas. They become very exalted personalities, and they can develop love of Godhead and go back to Godhead. There is no... But, so it's not an exclusive club, but there is still a need for Brahmanas to, take that leading role. Satchasama dhamma titiksha ajava jnanam vijnanam astikam brahma kamana svabhava jam. These are the Brahmana's qualifications. He must be truthful, so much truthful that even to his enemy he will not keep any secret. That is called truthfulness. And sama. Sama means controlling the senses. Dhamma means controlling the mind. Mind is our enemy, mind is our friend. So if we control the mind can act as a very good friend. And if we do not control the mind, then he acts as enemy. Therefore, the yoga system means controlling the mind, controlling the senses, so they can act as my friend. Otherwise, they will be my enemy. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha. So there is necessity of a class of men who will act as the brain of society, that is called Brahmana. That is real human society, where there are 4 classes of men, one acting as brain, one acting as arms or armies or protection, one acting as belly or the food, digesting machine. Unless you eat and digest your food, how will your body be maintained? So everything is very scientifically designed in the Vedic civilization. So in the Kali Yuga, there is scarcity of Brahmana. Brahmana is vairagya. A Brahmana is not interested with pounds, shillings, pence. Get money and enjoy. That is not Brahmana's business. What is enjoyment? That is illusion. You cannot enjoy because you are conditioned by the stringent laws of nature. And where is enjoyment? There is no enjoyment. But they are thinking, I am enjoying. This is called illusion, Maya. There cannot be any enjoyment. When you are not free, when you are conditioned under the stringent laws, you do not like to die. You are forced to die. You must die. You cannot say, no, I will not die. No, that is not possible. So where is your freedom? But we are declaring, now we are independent. This is all illusion. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to save us from all these illusions. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya means living, not dead. If we have no spiritual consciousness, if we have not Krishna consciousness, then we are dead. What is this body? This body is dead. Alive or dead, so-called dead, it is already dead because it is matter. But because there is spirit soul, it is moving. So he gives the example of the motor car. So, the Brahmana means one must know who is the driver of this body, Brahmagyana. So at the present moment, nobody knows who is driving this body. So therefore all Sudras, fourth-class men. There is no first-class man, but in the human society there must be 4 classes of men. First class, second class, third class. Fourth class is also required for assisting the higher 3 classes. Everything is very nicely described in the Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita is taught by Krishna himself, but people could not follow him. They misunderstood him. Therefore, Krishna again came as Chaitanya to teach personally the philosophy of Krishna. So he comes back to that point. So he's given a little bit of philosophy. He's describing how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching Vairagya and giving up the most. He's more well situated than practically the demigod, anyone in this universe. And yet he became detached to show us that this detachment is the path of happiness. Don't be attached to this material world. And his name is Chaitanya. Be attached to the living force within the body. And those teachings are presented in the Bhagavad Gita, given by Krishna, but people cannot understand it. You know, how the Brahmanas teach, give this spiritual guiding light to society, guide them in the same way. So, because people neglect the Gita, he came to teach and give a very easy process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not teach anything else than was taught by Krishna. Therefore, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, but now you have assumed the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, but you are Krishna. So again, on the point of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking the platform of the teacher, always remaining in the position of the devotee, trying to learn from higher authorities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't teach anything new. He taught what the higher authorities have taught. He gave that knowledge. What Krishna has taught in the Gita, he gave that knowledge. What is spoken in the Vedas, he gave that knowledge. What the teachers who have understood the Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and the Vedic scriptures, what they have said, he spoke that. So he didn't actually, come as the teacher to, again, show his own prowess in knowledge. He's taking the position of the teacher, and one who is teaching, they should teach knowledge which has been handed down by authorities, not just invent something new. So he's even teaching the teachers. And so, as Rupa Goswami said, we have to follow the Mahajans, the great personality authorities, Mahajana Yanigata Zapanta, quoting Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We cannot manufacture a way of life. We have to follow the footprints of the Mahajan, great personalities, that is the way. And you see in this purport, Lord Shiva, although he's a very exalted personality himself, he's demonstrating, he's taking offering his respects to Lord Brahma, that these great personalities, we should not try to jump over them. We should not be disrespectful to superiors. We should not neglect them. It's just, in Kali Yuga it's described that the pauper is proud of his penny. Although no one has any spiritual knowledge, no one understands, who I am. We tend to think I am this mature body, and even if we have some inkling of an understanding that I am a spirit soul, we do not know the identity. What is our identity? Who am I? The spirit soul? I don't know anything about myself. I can tell you what my body looks like. What is my spiritual personality? What is my name? What is my form? What do I do in the spiritual world? I have no idea. But we claim to be very elevated. So, therefore, we should take lessons from those who can guide us in higher knowledge, and be very careful not to jump over them or neglect them. So he is teaching that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Lord Shiva in this purport, is actually in a superior position to Lord Brahma. But to demonstrate that one should follow higher authorities, he does it himself. And that's what makes Lord Shiva exalted. We sometimes think that, I've come to Krishna consciousness. I've been here for some years. I've taken Brahmana. I'm now one of the intellectual ones. I'm now above others. I'm a big Sankirtan devotee, big this, big whatever. And in order to demonstrate my superiority, I will neglect other authorities. And in that way, I will manifest my superior position. But that is the opposite to what should be done. Actually, what should be done is, even if one is in a superior position, they should demonstrate themselves so others can follow. Be respectful to authorities. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, austerity, charity, sacrifice should never be given up even by great souls. And amongst them he describes that one should be respectful to one's mother and father. Sometimes devotees can be disrespectful to their parents. If a devotee, if they have a family and they're disrespectful to their parents, what would the devotee's children do to them? They will disrespect them. Because that's what they learned from their parents. How will the children of devotees know how to respect their parents if the devotees disrespect their own parents? So they think, I am a superior position. They're not devotees. I'm a devotee, I follow principles, they smoke and drink and so many things. Why should I show any respect to them? So Krishna is saying, no, you show them respect. How will others learn? How will people in society? In society now, no one respects their parents. It is, if you see someone who actually has a nice relationship with their parents and respectful, when they come to teenage years and, into their 20s and they get a university degree, that's it. Once they've, I notice, once children, especially the more educated they become, the more disrespectful they become. Oh, I know something. But if they see that we're respectful to our parents, they may not have an education, they may not be wealthy, but we're respectful, then they learn, oh, this is proper behaviour. Like that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching in so many different levels. Here at the present moment, everyone is speculating. What is the use of speculation? You're imperfect. So if we don't take knowledge coming down from higher authorities, we have to invent it ourselves. Immediately we're on the platform of speculation. Immediately we disregard authorities. We're on the platform of mental speculation. Which Prabhupada says is the disease of the mind in Kali Yuga. So almost done here. Because you have established imperfect senses, they're all imperfect. Therefore, that suffering, there is no solution. So speculative method will not help us. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching is, it is not as he has manufactured something, he is also following. He quoted one verse from Lord Brahma. So he quotes a verse from Brahma, which is a very significant part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. And basically it is that, one should just remain in one's position. If you're a farmer, stay a farmer. If you're a doctor, stay a doctor. If you're a business person, stay a business person. If you're a family person, stay a family person. Stay in your position. But don't speculate to elevate yourself to above the miseries of material existence. Just take the knowledge from the higher authorities. And you just stay in your position and you'll become completely perfect. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached that a lot. So Srila Prabhupada says, this is called jnana prayasam, endeavouring uselessly for knowledge, speculation. So give it up. Just become submissive. Don't think yourself that you are very learned. Because if the senses are imperfect, how can you be learned? Whatever you see, that is imperfect. Just like every day we see the sun with these eyes. And what do we see? It's just like a disc. It's 1,400 times bigger than this earth. So what is the value of your seeing? You cannot see beyond the walls. Still you are proud of seeing. Can you show me? Can you show me God? And what power you have got to see, that he does not consider. He thinks, I have got some seeing power. Similarly, you study every sense, they're all imperfect, blunt. So any knowledge you acquire by gymnastic of the senses is useless. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. Not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, it is the Bhagavat's teaching, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's are the same. So we have to give up this nonsense idea that I can attain to perfect knowledge by speculation. This will not help us. And so you have to submit and be submissive, and where to submit? You must be submissive to a perfect person, otherwise why should you submit? Tattvadashi, one who has seen the things as it is, go there, from them take the knowledge. Not that one is speculating, that is the process, Vedic process, therefore it is called Shruti. Shravana means hearing, Kirtana means glorifying, of whom? About Vishnu, not for anything else. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved this point. So Ramananda Raya was trying to discuss with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about what is the perfect path and what is the perfection of life, and he was describing the Varnashram system and so many different processes of jnana and karma and so many things, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected them all as external, and he said ultimately the best thing to do is to hear, and especially to hear about the devotional love that is there within the Brajavasis in Vrindavan as they show to Krishna. That if you want to understand things as they are, you learn from those who have demonstrated the highest degree of love. And Srila Prabhupada says this process is applicable to one, whether they're Muslim, Christian, Hindu, or any religion. If they follow this same principle, that they try to hear from those who are actually demonstrated that they're madly in love with God. They cannot live without God in their life for a moment. Everything is dedicated. They've given up everything in this world for the personality of Godhead. And they have that full knowledge that I am a spirit soul, my eternal relationship, I live in the spiritual world in a loving, eternal loving relationship with the personality of Godhead. And that loving relationship, when it is demonstrated by those of the highest, I should learn from them. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, these are the gopis. And again he points out, the gopis, they're not pundits, they're not brahmanas, they're not Vedic scholars. They're ordinary women from a farming, cowherd background, very simple village girls. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended that if you want to learn something, you learn from those who are exhibiting very powerful, pure love of God, and that is one who has that. They demonstrate completely detachment from the material world, and that is a manifestation of their pure knowledge that they are a spirit soul, and their knowledge of their eternal relationship with the personality of Godhead. So just to finish off here, so Srila Prabhupada says, so hear from Krishna, he is perfect. To hear about Krishna, you do not require to change your position. You're a medical man, that's all right, remain medical man. You're a scientist, that's all right. You're a lawyer, that's all right. You're a fool, that's all right. Because everyone is a fool. But they are divided by mental concoction that he is a fool and he is learned. Because the learned is also a fool. But by mental concoction he is recognized as intelligent. So so we see here in these very beautiful prayers by Lochandas Thakur that he very nicely describes that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, they are very, very kind. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Lord Nityananda is Balaram himself. But they have taken the position to show us, they've taken the position of the fool in the material world to show us how to practice to become perfectly situated from the beginning of spiritual life to the very topmost platform. This is the kindness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this method is applicable for any religious denomination. It is the same. We recommend this same process to the Hindus, the Christians, the Muslims, that they just follow this very simple process like that. So I'll just leave it there if anyone has any questions or comments about this. Yeah, Prabhupada. Yeah.
Just like Lord Shiva stood up to welcome Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva would have stood up to welcome Daksha as well if he was not meditating. Is that correct?
Say that again.
Just like Lord Shiva stood up to welcome Lord Brahma here, he would have stood up to
Yeah, he was not being disrespectful. He was not being disrespectful to Daksha. It was a different circumstance.
It just happened that he was meditating, so he didn't see.
Yeah, it was circumstantial. Yeah.
Different circumstances.
It was circumstantial. And but Daksha should have followed Lord Shiva's position. So, Daksha took Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva is, he doesn't advertise his exalted position, nor does he feel himself to be so exalted. And he takes a very lowly position in some circumstances, almost to be rejected. But he's doing that for the purpose of teaching and helping those on the lowest levels of material existence to give them something to follow. Who's going to teach? So just like when you go to educational system, most people fit into the education, but there are some people who can't go to even to primary school. They don't fit in. They can't learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, ABC, and they have to have special schools because to learn even the basic principles takes them many years. And they'll only ever come to a certain level, but someone has to teach them. Now, does that mean that that teacher is less qualified? In many ways, they're actually more qualified because sometimes they have to tolerate all sorts of, difficulties from the students themselves. Just like Lord Shiva is tolerating Daksha's behaviour in one sense. Lord Shiva, he teaches those, and usually those who have, it takes a lot of compassion, to teach people who are right at the hardest students, or the most difficult or the most unqualified for education. It takes a lot of kindness and a lot of compassion, to be able to deal with people like that. Interesting thing. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was asked to come to Australia and to spread Krishna consciousness in Australia. And he said, I can't do that. Because he felt it was too difficult being amongst the Australians. And so they sent Bhaktivedanta. You know that? Yeah. So, he was asked, but he felt it too difficult, Australians. Australians are, they're, they have a reputation all over the world in one sense for being, yobbos or, sometimes a bit, lacking culture. I remember when I became a devotee, I was very typical Australian. Very typical Australian as a teenager. And I come along to the temple, I jumped into the van. We're watching that Prabhupada movie, the Prabhupada movie? And in there, they were showing how Hare Krishna appears in different TV shows. And that lady in the 70s shows, the mother was cooking dinner and she was saying, I saw the Hare Krishnas, almost jumped in the van. If I hadn't been cooking dinner, I wouldn't have. Well, I did jump in the van. But, and I come back to the temple, and I never left. And, one time I was travelling, and Swami, he was Śrīmad Brahmachari, he was leading a kirtan. So he's always followed my devotional life very closely because, I've literally followed his kirtan back to the temple. And but he said to me, you know, on one or two occasions, he said, "Oh, I never thought you'd really become a devotee, you know, because I was just such a typical Australian, you know." And so, you know, those people, and Prabhupada himself, you know, he came to Australia, and he made a special prayer to Govinda up in, you know, Sydney, you know, when he Gopinath, when he put the deity in the temple there. I have to leave you in the hands of these, you know, Malachas, Australians. You know, give them the intelligence. You know, it's like a special prayer. Are they going to be able to look after? You know, so you know, it's even amongst exalted personalities, it takes a very special person, you know, to actually, you know, have the kindness and compassion and the patience and tolerance and expertise. And if someone can make the lowest person the highest elevated person, then that, you know, that person is not only the, you know, the most, you know, it shows not just their kindness and compassion, but just, you know, how extraordinary, you know, they are. So, you know, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift. Yeah. So Lord Shiva is in that category. You know, he teaches. So it's but sometimes, you know, when a teacher is teaching people of a very, you know, the students of a very low caliber to start off with, sometimes people take that as a reflection of the teacher. Well, he mustn't be a very teacher. You could only get a job with them. You know, not a very good preacher. You can only preach to them. You know, but it's different. So, you know, Daksha should have seen that quality in Lord Shiva and not taken him as, oh, you know, he's hanging around with these people. He should have understood. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, we learned that we should try to act as a second-class devotee, though we're maybe on the neophyte platform. But we should try to, and one of those criteria is to avoid the envious. So it can sometimes happen that our parents are envious. So how do we make that balance?
Yeah. Look, you know, principles, we try and follow a principle as far as possible when, you know, it is possible to execute it. You see with personalities like Arjuna and Yudhishthira, you know, Krishna showed them that, you know, some parts of Dharma or, you know, correct behaviour, somehow, no matter how hard you try to apply it, you know, because people are so envious and difficult to deal with, you're just not going to be able to use that tactic, and literally, you know, you may have to, just like, you know, when Duryodhana was, you know, here we talk about a Brahmin. A Brahmin is so truthful, Prabhupada mentions, that even to an enemy, they'll tell it the truth, you know, even to an enemy. You know, when Duryodhana was being defeated by Bhima, defeated so many times. And Krishna says, you know, when you're dealing with someone who's, you know, very intent on cheating and harm, then you have to employ the same method. There is no choice left. There is no other option. You know, and so, you know, as a general principle, we try to be respectful where we should be. But sometimes it's just not possible. Other methods may have to be employed, you know, in extreme circumstances. So, you know, these things are also there. But we see that, for instance, with personalities like Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, there's no sacrifice that they won't make to do the right thing to please the Supreme Lord and his devotees. There's nothing they won't do. They're very reluctant to give up doing the right thing. It takes a lot for them to, have to take an emergency course. Whereas a demon, there's nothing they won't do to commit sinful activities for their, sinful desires. They, as Prabhupada says, the devil is quoting scripture. Sometimes they're speaking all sorts of philosophy. As Kamsa was, he's preaching, about the nature of the soul and, to Devaki and Vasudeva. But, then as soon as it goes against his sense gratification, he'll give it up in a second. See? So, we should follow as far as possible, as far as practical. But there are emergency situations and there are unusual situations in Kali Yuga that we have to be, just very intelligent who we're dealing with. And Prabhupada says you fight fire with fire. And he gives this example in this regard, because sometimes they used to preach, that they used to criticise, even some of Prabhupada's disciples and some of his scholars, they used to criticise his preaching tactics, because people didn't really want to buy a Bhagavad Gita, because people don't understand the Bhagavad Gita. But, somehow or another, you've got to introduce that into their life somehow or another. At least get it on the bookshelf. Maybe, because that's how I become a devotee. It was actually on someone's bookshelf who never read it. And at the moment in my life that I thought, I am in such illusion thinking I'm happy, I am suffering so much in this world, and I wanted to reach into the library. I was actually at a party, people drinking, smoking, and I was so disgusted with myself. I am in so much illusion. There's not a speck of happiness here. None of them are happy. And at that moment, I thought, I'm just going to reach into the library and pull out the biggest book I can find and just show these people. It's all illusion. And I pulled out the Bhagavad Gita. That person had never read it. I'd lived with that person for 9 months. I went to their home for a party, and I never even saw it. But at that moment, it just literally first thing came in my hand. See? So somehow we just, these books, as Prabhupada described, these books are like time bombs, One day they'll be little, not like, they're leaving over in Iraq and what have you, but, a little spiritual explosion. At the time when someone understands, this is illusion, I need something beyond that, then Krishna will be there. Have a look at this. One time my spiritual master gave a lecture and I said, Guru Maharaj, that was such a nice lecture. Such a nice... He said, it's amazing how it sinks in when you're in a mood for hearing. So, wonderful mood of humility. But the fact was that when someone wants to hear, then it sinks in. Otherwise, it's like water off a duck's back. But people used to criticise Prabhupada, for being a bit forceful and almost tricking people. I mean, I've seen, I used to do a lot of Sankirtan. I tried to, be as fair dinkum as I could, but some of my godbrothers, made me, cringe for what I saw them doing. But, Prabhupada said that, it's best if you sort of do it nicely and they enjoy, that experience, getting the book from the devotee. But he was never really strongly critical against somehow or another. They get a book somehow or another. And he said, if there's a child and they have something very valuable, like, a $100 bill or something, and they probably throw it away or, So the father will sometimes say, here's a lozenge, I will swap you for that piece of paper, which is not really, that's a piece of paper, it's not very worth much, but I have this lozenge, it's really special. So the little child will think, oh, yeah, you take that yucky old bit of paper, I'll take it like that. So Prabhupada says it's like that. that the child doesn't know what they're doing with something that's quite value, So they have the human form of life. They're completely wasting it. Okay. So we want to help them then, to get some value. So, a doctor, they'll say to the children, here's some candy, or they're about to give a needle. Is it not going to hurt a bit? The child's really, oh, okay. And, here's a little lolly, and look at this over there. Bang! Ah! Save the child's life. So is that, are you actually being untruthful? Are you actually being, is that a bad thing that you save someone in need? So, therefore, as far as possible, we follow all the different principles of goodness and spirituality and the correct behaviour, and we're very hesitant to steer away from what is right and proper that we've learned from our authorities, to follow in their footsteps. But sometimes we have to, accommodate extraordinary circumstances for their benefit and everyone's benefit. That's a different circumstance. You had a question?
Yes, Prabhu. Said that Chaitanya came to teach detachment, but it also seems more prominent that he was teaching the mood of the gopis, which is full attachment to Krishna.
Yeah.
And through developing that, that's everything. So I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Yes. So it was Brahmachari who's saying that Lord Chaitanya came to teach detachment, and so Srila Prabhupada mentions here that So on the question of the gopis, so this is the same lecture. I jumped over this because I was worried about the time, but I'll come back to it. So Srila Prabhupada is describing how we shouldn't speculate, we should just hear, and if we hear from devotees, we can conquer God. Right? And he says, just like the gopis. The gopis were women, not very high-class women, cowherds men, in the village, not in town, very educated, high society, Brahmachari. No, they all belonged to Vaishya class, and they were women, not Vedantas, not scholar. But they conquered Krishna. Why? And that is this. They heard about Krishna, and they become lover of Krishna. That is required, and so that is a real qualification. So here, as you're describing, we, by hearing, because when we're proud, we don't hear from others. But when we, lose that pride, then we have a tendency to hear. And if we're going to hear, if we hear about Krishna, then automatically that, attachment to Krishna comes. And as you're saying, from that attachment to Krishna, then that vairagya and transcendental knowledge automatically comes like that. So Lord Chaitanya is teaching vairagya and knowledge. It's a very important statement because some people think that if you're attached to Krishna, you're a person who's attached to sense gratification because you're attached to the sex philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because they associate Krishna and the gopis to be like some, sentimental, see? So therefore it's a very important statement. No. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing this. So, and therefore, so the two go together. It's very important to make that distinction. Yes, attached to Krishna, but don't ever think that a person who's attached to Krishna is not practicing or developing vairagya and vidya. And so he goes on to say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so strict about womanly association. Still, he recommended Ramya Kichit Upasana Brajabadu Bhagavi Yakavita. There is no better type of worshipping Krishna than the system, or if we do not practice detachment, then people will take the wrong idea about our attachment to Krishna. See? So, there is no one more detached. That was the point. There's no one more detached than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, if he's hearing about the gopis' love for Krishna, then we should take it. This is not anything to do with mundane things. You know, this is on the spiritual platform. So that's why the statement is important. And that is the recommendation of Vedic Shastra. Saiva pumsam parodamo yito bhaktivedanta hoksaje. First class religion. Religion means to understand God, that is the sum and substance. The process may be different according to country and men. Just like worshipping the deity in the temple, that is also bhakti. And the Christians go to church and offer prayers to God, that is also bhakti. The 9 items of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam. Vandanam is offering prayer. So they go to the church or go to the mosque. They offer prayers to the Supreme. That is also bhakti. So there is no question of what type of religion you are following. That doesn't matter. You follow anything, whatever suits you, but the result should be you worship with the result. The result is how to love God. That should be the result. If you have come to the platform how to love God, mad after God as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yugaitam Namishina Chakshusha Pravishaitam Sunyayatam Jagat Savam Govinda Vedahena Me. Being separated from Govinda, my life is vacant. That is required. It doesn't matter whether you follow Christianity or Hinduism or Muslim. Whether you are feeling vacancy, everything vacant without Krishna, without God, that is the test. Now, one who is enjoying the material energy, the test is there that, that person is enjoying quite happily without God. They're using up so much of their time. That's why the Vairagya principle has to be strongly stated. Mad after God and nothing else. Nothing else can capture my mind for a moment. That has to be there. Vairagya. Why? Because I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. So people may question, this is, therefore we're saying that, you can follow whatever process you want in Christianity, Muslim religion, but if you're not showing signs of love of God, your attachment is to land and oil and water and politics and the body and so many things, where's your love of God? And then you criticize us because we're following Krishna, say that we have some sentimental attachment, but there's no attachment, they're following 4 regular principles. So, therefore, so we're not saying our religion is better than yours. You follow your religion, you offer prayers, and you hear about God and you talk about God, and you become a lover of God. So, but they're not doing, or they don't know how to. So that is. So he concludes that is first class religion, to love God. Bhakti means love, service, rendering service. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught this, and he took sannyas for the benefit of the whole world. He took sannyas. So it comes back to that same point. In order to teach that we should be mad after love of God, and there is real happiness there, he gave up everything that people are searching after. If he didn't give that up, we wouldn't learn that lesson. That no, there is something better than all of this. So that's why. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.